If I had to sum up today's entire video in a single word, it would be nuanced. Now, nuance is in short supply on the internet, especially when it comes to places like Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Nuance is in short supply on the internet, but today we're gonna have to do our best to read between the lines, look at every angle, and see if we can find a yes or no answer to the simple question of, am I overreacting? I've selected a handful of the best recent posts from r/AmIOverreacting, and as you'll see, answering a simple question like that often turns out to not be simple at all. Couple that with the fact that most people on this platform are there to vent about their relationship problems, and needless to say, we're going to wind up getting into some very gray areas here in a second. But first, welcome. My name is D'Angelo, and I am your professor of anomalous normalcy, which is a very real degree that I definitely do have. Or maybe this is just me broadcasting myself talking in my room like YouTube used to be. And in today's lecture, I've decided to scale up the difficulty. It's been over a month since we've last graded posts from r/AmIOverreacting, so this time I've purposely chosen ones that are a little trickier to answer. Well, many of them are. Some of them, the answer is very obvious. We'll also be grading each post for authenticity, because people do in fact enjoy lying on the internet. So this first question raises a few questions of its own, chief of which being, can you stalk somebody if you already live in their house? Am I overreacting for wanting a divorce after finding thousands of photos of myself sleeping on my wife's phone? Right off the bat, I'll say, of all the things to find 1,000 pictures of on your wife's phone, at least it was you? Question mark? My wife and I have been together for 11 years and have 3 amazing kids. We have never had any serious issues. However, the other night I was looking for a picture of our son on her phone and I found an album called My Name, Sleeping, with 9,631 photos of myself sleeping over the years. 9,631! She never told me about this or sent me any of the photos. It is just me sleeping in numerous different angles. Well, I guess to build on my comment from before, if there's anybody who's going to have 10,000 photos of you taken without your consent, at least it's your wife? Question? Nah, this is getting weird. Hold on. I can't even believe I'm writing this, but I am so creeped out and don't know how to move forward. I confronted her about the pictures and she just got annoyed that I had her phone and offered no explanation. I feel very violated and am uncomfortable sleeping next to her. I feel like I can't be with this person anymore. What should I do? This is weird, right? Or am I overreacting? So first I would like to go ahead and grade this for authenticity. I'm going to go ahead and give this a C. It passes. There's no red flag that indicates to me there's no way this is true. At the same time, this is such a uniquely strange situation. It would make sense if someone made it up. I think this person asked like 4 different questions. Am I overreacting for wanting to divorce her? Is this weird? What should I do? And am I overreacting in general? So I'm going to go ahead and start with the title, and I'm going to say yes, this person may be overreacting for wanting a divorce specifically. Now, to be clear, I'm immediately going to follow that up by saying, yes, this is weird. This is so very weird. No, you're not overreacting by being creeped out by this. I just feel like with this being effectively the perfect woman, you seem to have the same goals in life. She is the mother of your children. And this sounds like the only thing that has ever really been a serious issue in over a decade. I wouldn't immediately jump to divorce personally, at least not before figuring out what's going on here. So to answer the question of what should I do, talk to her. This person said he confronted her, but it's not clear what exactly was said. If you were just like, hey, what's with all these weird photos? And she was like, hey, why were you on my phone? And then it didn't go any further than that, I wouldn't say that's grounds for divorce. I would say that's grounds for another conversation. Weird? Sure. But like, let's talk about this kind of weird. Divorce feels extreme, especially if there are 3 kids in the picture. I definitely don't think you should stay together just because of kids, but I also don't think you should just jump immediately to divorce over what has effectively just been one thing. But then that one thing is kind of like 9,000 things. So, oh God, this one's breaking my brain a little bit. I think this is how my dog must feel. I do think this is significantly less weird if you're just taking pictures of your dog. To take so many photos of somebody else and not even think to yourself, how would they feel about this? Is not cool at all. Ooh, I bet it's an OCD. Like if she doesn't take one, you won't wake up or something. I mean, I definitely can't diagnose her with obsessive compulsive disorder, but this is obviously an obsession and she has a compulsion to do this. And that's why I would say my main thing would be trying to figure out, why were you taking these photos? I'm honestly going to have to give this my first I don't know. I'm gonna say yes. Yes, you're overreacting if you want to divorce someone over something when you haven't had a real conversation about it. But that's just my opinion. I genuinely could see someone saying, no, it's not an overreaction to want to divorce. I just feel like this is not a normal situation, so there's no normal way of answering it. Am I overreacting? My boyfriend broke up with me over horoscopes. I have been dating a new guy for just over 2 months. He's confident. Okay, we get it. You like him. Wait, actually, low-key, this description is kind of giving fan fiction. He's confident, protective, emotionally open, completely my type physically, blonde, blue-eyed, bearded, athletic build, and has a British accent. I mean, okay, sure. I'm not saying the chances are 0, but let's just see what else is here. The relationship has gone really well so far. Okay, so they have chemistry and made it exclusive after 1 date, and you ran around screaming with your roommate afterwards. I'm sorry, this is actually starting to give rom-com. The only thing this needs is like the other guy, right? The one you've known since childhood. And then the two of them compete for your affection in a gladiator ring. I don't know. I haven't watched a rom-com in a long time. Anyway, we were hanging out and I asked him about his birthday. I'm kind of into astrology and I wanted to check our compatibility. He then asked me if I really believed in that stuff and I said yes. He then went quiet for a bit and said, I don't think this is going to work out. He then started putting on his shirt to leave. Oh, you really had to throw in that detail that he was shirtless? Well, guys, my shirtless hunky man is British. Did I mention he's British? He's from Britain. He broke up with me over 1 sentence. Am I overreacting? He said that there was too much unreason in this country and I don't need any more in my life. He said it spoke to how I thought about things and my critical thinking, which upset me. I don't know what to do next. Am I overreacting? I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna have to give this an F for authenticity. The one thing that always gets people in these Reddit posts is when they have too much information. It's like they really have to convince us that they're real, so they throw in like the little extra details. When I read posts that are describing what are supposedly emotional issues, but you somehow still remember all these physical details, like what somebody was wearing. I don't know, it just raises red flags. Anyway, almost everyone in the comments seems to be talking about astrology and like experiences they've had with it, negative or positive. And that's kind of what this post seems designed to do, to generate discourse about astrology and how people feel about it. So you know what? Allow me to play into it. I don't believe in astrology because the time I was born was a coincidence. You know what I mean? Obviously, it doesn't really affect my personality. A butterfly could have flapped its wings at a different speed 5 years ago, and then I would have been born slightly later, having different star signs, but I'd like to believe I would obviously still be the same person. However, I don't really see astrology as being that harmful, personally. There's nothing wrong with reading about star signs, reading horoscopes, etc. I don't think it makes you stupid by any means. Or what, unreasonable is what the boyfriend said? What's unreasonable is judging other people for any reason, let alone because of when they were born. So if that's what you're using astrology to do, knock it off. But if you're just like, oh my God, I'm such a Capricorn moment, like, how does that affect me or make me? I feel like people get irrationally angry over astrology for some reason. And I suppose I can understand why when I do see examples of people using it to be very annoying. But personally, I feel like those examples tend to be overblown. And a lot of them seem to stem from wanting to prove that it's all dumb as opposed to just allowing people to be interested in something that doesn't interest you. But that's my astrology hot take. I don't know. This post is fake. Let's move on. Next we have, am I overreacting? My husband won't read the book I'm writing. Ooh, I bet all the writers will get a kick out of this one. I'm already getting mixed feelings about this because a book is a big investment. Like reading a book is not an easy thing to do, but also neither is committing to someone in marriage. So surely if you've done that, you could maybe read a book. But you know what? Let's get the details. I started writing a book a little over a year ago. It's a fantasy romance novel. I'm on my 3rd round of edits, so the manuscript is complete. My husband refuses to read it. And then it seems that despite the husband not reading it, he still feels entitled to make a bunch of suggestions about the book, which is a little silly since it's already finished. He just uses the excuse I'm not a reader. But for me, it hurts because I've really put my heart and soul into this manuscript. I just want my favorite person to care enough about that to push past the fact that he doesn't care to read so he can see how hard I've worked on it. Well, I think for authenticity, I'm going to give this a B. I would almost give it an A, but I have to be honest. if you wanted to promote a book, writing up a fake post on Reddit about how your husband doesn't want to read it will 100% result in the top comment being, I'll read it, as this person says in comment number 2. But I didn't see OP come back and promote the book after that, so I would say this is probably real. It doesn't seem like it's just an ad. But as for whether or not this person is overreacting, I'm going to say no, because I don't think that she's done anything. If she was like divorce or she said some horrible thing or whatever, I think those would all be overreactions. But having the feeling of working on something so intensely and then wondering why someone can't take 5 to 6 hours to appreciate it when that person has allegedly been appreciating you for however many years, I don't think that feeling is an overreaction. I think that feeling is valid and kind of complicated. However, it's really tricky though, because if he really doesn't care about fantasy romance, it doesn't actually sound like he's going to get what you wrote the book for other people, which is a positive experience reading it. Instead, he's just going to be trudging along page by page. Because, I mean, I love to read so much, but listen, if you hand me like a Civil War historical novel, I would rather die. Honestly, I have to be honest. Not because I hate the author or anything like that. I just can't with that genre. Similarly, I will read an entire book. I don't care if it takes me days, but if you ask me to sit down and watch a single game of sports, goodbye. It doesn't even matter what sport it is. See ya. But then that's tricky though. Because if it was somebody I knew and loved performing as an athlete at the sporting event, I feel like of course I would show up if I could. But if a loved one wrote a Civil War novel, I would not read it, I have to be honest. So I don't know, this is all very weird and I have no idea how to feel about it once again. But I see this person has actually added some edits, so let's see what those say. Edit. Goodness, this has been quite the thread. I've accepted that I've overreacted a bit. My husband and I spoke and I apologized. Please stop telling me I'm needy and terrible. It's not necessary. Okay, well, this just seems like a happy ending, honestly. Though I will say, it doesn't seem like you've addressed a key frustration here, which is that every time you mention this book, he seems to have some sort of criticism or feedback for you, but you weren't asking for it because the book is done and also he didn't read it. So I think it's a little deeper than overreacting or being needy or whatever these people are accusing her of. I feel like there's probably a conversation to be had about that, but ultimately, wow, who knew that communicating about an issue could bring resolution? If only everyone else on Reddit. No, actually, don't figure that out because then I wouldn't have content. All right, am I overreacting? Husband told me to go to sleep while he is skinny dipping with my boyfriend. Huh? Oh, BF must mean best friend in the scenario. Okay. Husband told me to go to sleep while he is skinny dipping with my best friend in our pool. All right, so your friend came over, you were all sitting in the backyard, and your husband and your best friend started drinking. They decide to make a bet on who's gonna win the fight they're watching, and the husband proposes that the loser has to take a shot of whiskey and jump in the pool naked. No, that's weird. That's weird automatically. What do you mean by this? Your husband fully just said, hey, I want to see your friend without her clothes on. What? One of the bets was that if they both lose, I am not sure how, then they would both jump in the pool naked. I asked, why does it have to be naked? But he ignored that question. No. So this person went to sleep, woke up at 1 a.m. to the sound of splashing water, and saw her husband and best friend both skinny dipping in the pool. And then this happens until 3:30 a.m. It turns into a big argument for obvious reasons. And then he says, well, what about those times when we skinny dipped all together? How is this any different? I think for authenticity, I'm gonna give this a B. It's just kind of whatever. I could see it happening. And I'm gonna say, no, you're not overreacting. What is wrong with your husband and your friend? All I'm hearing really is that you were extremely uncomfortable for hours and hours and they refused to do anything about this. I honestly think it was doomed from the start because again, being drunk and doing a bet where the loser has to strip is what's your real intention there? And then they both wound up doing it anyway, which kind of shows it wasn't about the bet at all, question mark. This is truly just some weirdo behavior. You've described weirdo behavior here, not overreacting. They both stepped over boundaries. I don't think you're overreacting. I think your best friend sucks though, and your husband does too. Not overreacting. Your husband and best friend don't seem to respect you or your marriage. I would distance yourself from her and make your husband go to counseling. Yeah, I would have to agree, honestly. Or at the very least, I would find some way to get to the bottom of whether or not he's willing to see this from your perspective. Because if he's not, that's nah, fam. Look, I thought I was going to get through the entire video without mentioning my favorite website to bring up when I go through these Reddit reviews. In fact, if you've seen any of them before, you'll already know where we're going with this. Divorce.com. Go ahead, sign up. right now is the easiest thing in the world. You know, choose your state. I'll choose it for you. This kind of sounds like Florida behavior. It's kind of giving Florida, honestly. But no, jokes aside, your man is weird. And your best friend is either completely oblivious or just straight up doesn't care. And I honestly feel like, as nice as counseling and communication would be, I would completely understand just dipping after, well, not skinny dipping, but leaving after the scenario. I'm gonna go ahead and say, no, this person was not overreacting. That was a perfectly appropriate reaction. Anger. Am I overreacting to my wife's girls' weekend? Oh, buddy. What is it about girls' trips that seem to rile men so? This isn't the first time a girls' trip has come up in these posts, but let's see what it is this time. I planned a getaway weekend for my wife and I for her birthday. At the same time, her girlfriends planned a weekend away. Ah, and so neither of you knew about the other's plans. She decided to go on the weekend with the girls instead of with me. Oh, oof. Oh, buddy. Everything just went black and white, and I just heard sad music start playing in my head. This is the kind of thing where, like, how could you not take it personally? I told her that I felt hurt she chose her friends over me, and she said she felt bad about the decision, but she's been waiting for her girls' weekend for a long time. We live a pretty busy life with work and kids events all year long and don't get much time alone. I thought this would be a great way to get away for a couple days. I can't stop thinking that she chose her friends over me. Am I overreacting? Oh, buddy. Okay, I'm gonna give this one a B. It doesn't sound fake to me. I would give it an A, but it is a little too perfect, right? It's a little too impossible to answer. I think right off the bat, I want to say no, it's not an overreaction to be upset, because once again, that's your genuine feeling. And it doesn't sound like you've, I guess, attempted to prevent her from going on this trip or anything insane like that. But oh my feelings would be hurt in this situation, honestly. But if I was the wife, what I think I would say is this: you and I, Reddit husband, can go on a trip whenever, even if it's not for my birthday. However, my friends and I have all piled together like so many different schedules, and this might be the only time we can go on this girls trip. So like comparing the schedules of 5, I don't know how many friends she has. We'll say it's 5 schedules to our 2 schedules. I'm confident in our ability to also go on a trip together after the fact. I think that's what I would say, probably, if I was going to choose the girls trip, but I also have no idea if I would choose the girls trip in that scenario. This really is like the hard mode of Reddit videos, because I literally have no clue how I'm supposed to feel about this. What is everybody else saying? I just planned the girls' weekend with my friends, but while we were throwing out dates, I was also checking in with my husband to make sure there were no other plans I wasn't aware of. Did you guys communicate dates with each other at all? And the OP says this is how it came about. She asked me about that weekend with the girls, and I told her I was planning a weekend for her too, but I wanted it to be a surprise. Oh, buddy, it just gets more and more complex. This is also why I don't like surprises. For me personally, surprises don't add any level of positivity or enjoyment to an experience. In fact, if anything, I am actually far more likely to have an anxiety response to a surprise, even if it's supposed to be positive. I just like knowing things ahead of time. You know what I mean? If you're like, surprise, it's your birthday and we're taking you on a trip, that's not going to make me feel better than asking me weeks in advance, hey, will you be free on your birthday to go on this trip? That sounds super fun. I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm totally gonna be free on my birthday. That does sound super fun. I'm not gonna sit around thinking, well, I wish you guys had kept it a surprise. And this is why I don't like surprises. They complicate things, and I like things simple. I say, having chosen the most complex posts I could find. I mean, I don't think anyone did anything malicious here. Just unfortunate timing. I don't blame OP for being hurt that he was passed over for the girls. Those are fair feelings. The wife was put in a tough spot. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and agree with that comment wholeheartedly. The wife, in my opinion, was completely valid in saying, sorry, I think I'm gonna go on this trip with my friends. First of all, that's her decision regardless. And secondly, it does suck, but at the same time, you too can go on a vacation afterwards. However, the husband did nothing wrong by trying to have a surprise party, and he's also certainly not doing anything wrong by feeling hurt and disappointed. However, don't set yourself up to expect things that haven't been confirmed. It's like a really lame lesson to learn, but I genuinely at this point can only get excited about things as they're happening. At any point before that, I tend to operate under the assumption that it could go away before I ever get to it. And so I don't want to say the husband set himself up, because that feels very callous towards someone who was just trying to be nice for his wife's birthday. But I will say I could see how this situation could easily be avoided in the future. Not overreacting, in my opinion. Am I overreacting about how this business owner responded? A month ago, I was interviewed for a job. I sent over my info and didn't hear back. A week goes by, 2 weeks. I assume I didn't get the internship. During this time, I was interviewing for a lot of internships. Today, I get this hi text from a number that isn't in my area code. I was confused. I asked who it was, and the screenshots say it all. All right, let's read a stranger's text messages. Heck yeah. Hi. Hi, who is this? Shane. Don't know, Shane. Have a good day. I would say me, honestly, but I don't even respond to numbers I don't recognize anymore, if I'm being honest. Maybe I'm missing some great opportunities, but if my phone rings and they're not already a contact, I just decline. I've gotten a lot of hi text over the years that have received absolutely no answer. Who knows? This could have been long lost relatives, royal families from obscure countries trying to offer me money. I don't know. Anyway, don't know a Shane. Have a good day. Cool. Great start or end. Who knows? And OP's like, I don't think you have the right number. And then Shane is like, did I cut and paste wrong? Okay, sounds good. And then OP's like, oh, what? This is for the internship. Why didn't you say something? They said, I apologize for coming off so abrasively. It's been over a month. I assumed that was the end of the process for me. When an unknown number texts me with little to no information, I tend to brush it off. I found another internship. Thank you for this opportunity. First of all, Shane, if that's even your real name, why would you not reach out and say, hey, Shane here. Why did I give him this voice? Why would you not reach out and say, hey, Shane here. I'm reaching out about the internship at the Shane company. I know it's been a while, but if you're still interested, we'd love to move forward. Just reaching out and saying, hey, it's Shane. What did you think was going to happen? I was told to reach out to you and you were expecting me. Probably one of the best ways you can handle someone reaching out to you when you're going to be working a position dealing with reaching out to people. Kind of told me everything I need to know about you. Try to reach out and you're just like, F off, bye. So maybe I will. What if SpaceX or HBO or Dancing with the Stars reached out and you didn't know them and then treated them like that? Would we just lose those tremendous clients? Do I eat that sandwich? Does the company ultimately lose out on business? Because this can't be real. Also, I was adding words. It doesn't say business. I was getting into character. Hold on. These are the questions that plague my mind. Moreover, that they will give my anxiety about our communications as a whole for this company. Bro, do you think you're SpaceX or HBO or Dancing with the Stars? First of all three of these institutions are corny to me. SpaceX, you're corny for being owned by Elon Musk. HBO, you're corny for renaming HBO Max to Max. Ain't nobody calling that Max. And Dancing with the Stars, you're corny for that Anna Delvey thing. Having Anna Delvey on the show, goodbye. I would laugh if any of these three companies reached out to me. Well, hold on a second. HBO, maybe we could work something out. Do a little original show, something like that. But nah, fam. Anyway, for authenticity, I'm honestly gonna give this an A. I'm gonna give it an A. I know it's like kinda out there, but there's a reason I know this is true. I have dealt with Shanes in my life. I have known one too many Shanes in person. I have unfortunately worked for a Shane or two. So no, I feel like this happened. This might have happened, honestly. And even if it didn't, I feel like it could. Now, as for whether this person overreacted, obviously the answer is no. They had a perfectly normal reaction. Shane is definitely the one overreacting. And I'm really curious as to what kind of company Shane thinks he's running here. Like, who does Shane think he is that he could just say the word Shane and this person would know? Like, if someone reached out and I was like, okay, who is this? And they're like, Elon, I'm gonna be like, oh. But Shane is not nearly a distinct enough name in the world of business. It's giving delusions of grandeur. It's giving like unreasonable expectations. Nah, I hope you blocked him after this. It serves him right. Shane is a mess. You dodged a bullet. When I get a random text that just says hi, I assume it's a scammer. Same. These are the questions that plague my mind. This is unhinged. Imagine how he treats the people who actually work there. Nah, fam. Bye, Shane. All right, and then we have this last one. Am I overreacting? My wife cut off her hair and told me that she is bisexual. Uh-oh. It reminds me of that one meme. Any female born after 1993 can't cook. All they know is McDonald's. Charge they phone, twerk, be bisexual, eat hot chip, and lie. Honestly, I feel like most of the women I know who were born after 1993 would look at this list and they just go like, and what about it? Like, okay, but I don't know. If you were born after 1993, let me know if this is an accurate assessment. I mean, sure, not everybody's twerking, not everybody's bi, but who doesn't charge their phone? Anyways, last month, I was quite taken aback to discover that my wife had chopped off half her hair. By half, I mean the left side of her hair was at least half a meter long, while the right side was cut to just above her shoulder. Oh man, she hit you with that Ava Max cut, not the Max cut. Okay. I helped her to even things out, and today she went to the hairdresser to tidy up the look, as I am no Paul Mitchell. I mean, that's sweet that you helped her. After collecting her from the hairdresser, my wife confessed that she has realized she is bisexual and likely has been for some time. Likely has been for some time. I think this might have been the case for a bit longer than I realized. Maybe forever, almost. I don't know. I assured her that I don't judge her for that and that I was proud of her for having the courage to tell me. However, that's not a good place to put a however. However, I can't help but feel there's something off, considering the drastic change in her hairstyle and her subsequent coming out as bisexual after 17 years of marriage. Reddit, am I overreacting? We are in the UK. Yeah, I could tell because you said whilst. I could just tell you're British and blonde, tall, muscular. You're basically that other girl's boyfriend. Anyways, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but it kind of sounds like your wife is having a bit of a crisis. Now, granted, it sounds like you're very much being there for her despite this. Giving yourself a regrettable haircut is nothing compared to coming out with something that you haven't told anyone for 17 years. Well, I mean, 17 years of being married, let alone her whole life. Nothing this person's described sounds like overreacting. I think feeling like something is off is valid because something is off. This isn't how she normally acts, you know? But it sounds like she's trying a lot of things and you're not holding it against her in any way. I don't think enough has happened here to say that this person has overreacted. And who knows, maybe nothing will happen in the future. Your wife being bi doesn't really mean she can't be attracted to you anymore. I feel like people in the comments are a bit thrown off by this one. I don't know if you're overreacting because you didn't even say how this makes you feel. Something off isn't much of a reaction. You didn't really tell us about your reaction other than you were supportive, so what are you really asking? Are you considering divorce? Are you angry? Did you say something ugly? Like, that's hardly a reaction at all. I understand this is Reddit and we want things to either be blowing up or like perfectly balanced as all things should be, but nothing happened so far. This is very mild. People cut their hair sometimes badly, and hey, sometimes they come out as bi after decades. Genuinely, nothing could change in the future, or a great many things could change in the future. So as long as you're aware of this, I guess I would just stick with it. It's very impossible to answer this question, but I would say don't fixate on what could happen. Just take things as they're happening. She hasn't said she doesn't love you anymore, etc. Being bi doesn't mean she's gonna run off with like anybody she sees, you know? She was already bi during that 17 years and there didn't seem to be a problem. And at most, something off isn't reading as leaning into biphobia, but I would say just make sure it doesn't turn into that. Don't come up with weird assumptions about her just because of her identity, etc. But yeah, that was the last post I had. And now for our recap. Were you paying attention? I want a divorce after finding thousands of pictures of myself sleeping on my wife's phone. You may be overreacting. Possibly, but that's still very weird. Am I overreacting because my imaginary perfect British boyfriend broke up with me over horoscopes? I failed that one because that just didn't feel real. Am I overreacting because my husband won't read the book I'm writing? No, not really, but also you have to ask yourself what you really want. Am I overreacting because my husband and my best friend were skinny dipping even though it made me uncomfortable? No, I think your anger was an extremely appropriate reaction and you should be careful about how you move forward. Am I overreacting because my wife wanted to go on a girls trip with her friends instead of with me? No. But it's really sad. I'm sorry. Am I overreacting because of how this business owner responded? No, obviously you were not overreacting and that was just unhinged behavior. And am I overreacting because my wife, you know, be bisexual, eat hot chip, lie, etc.? No, I think everything is fine for now. Calm down. It's not the end of the world. Don't worry. But those are just my takes. My favorite thing about these posts is you could have a totally different take on them and it would still be fine. I think there's some things that most people should agree on, but Reddit posts are not one of them. Knock yourself out. So I'm of course excited to hear your take. I mean, this is the part of the video where a layman would ask you to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, but I will ask you to enroll, evaluate the video, and submit your feedback. Because I am of course running a 100% completely, totally, all the way, okay, maybe not really, somewhat unaccredited university. Probably. Just ask anybody in the student body and they'll confirm it for you. We're totally legit. And as for me, whether you'll see me in 24 hours or 24 months is honestly anyone's guess, but until then, thanks for watching. Your homework for today, is to rethink that weird haircut you were about to give yourself. Don't do it. Nah, never mind. Do it. You're gonna look fantastic.